Hey there, it's Mixing Coach. So, I have a question today from our community. How do I feel about summing plugins? I have the Waves NLS and the Slate version. Have you used them and do you have a preference? Well, oh my goodness, this is a can of worms, this whole topic. And I'm going to break it up and try to give you some kind of reasonable answer. I do have the Waves NLS and I also have the Slate thing, and I have others. And I currently have the Slate version sitting on first slot of my stereo bus set to the SSL setting. I don't really have a lot to say about the Waves one. It's a little bit more aggressive and I didn't like the sound of it as much. So that's the first answer you get. Do you put a summer on each channel? Do you put them on the buses or just the master bus? Okay, so this is where it starts to get weird because we have to have a little bit of a history lesson. Why would you put a plugin on your individual channel? Well, the reason people would like to do that is because if, like me, they were coming from the world of using a desk, the first thing that would happen is your signal would come into the desk and hit a line amp. Now, unlike most people's perception, these things were not distortion units. These things were super clean. They put a ton of effort into analog design because noise was your enemy. So, would there be a little bit of color? Yes, potentially. There might be a, transformer. It's going to add coloration. But is it going to add like saturation and distortion? Well, very minimally, unless you really are hammering it. So that kind of vibe, it's a bit questionable once we head into the digital world. And the same with putting them on the buses. Because why? Well, this kind of way we bus now, and if you come up through the DAW route, is quite different to how we used to do it. Like an SSL had two buses, and it wasn't until later you started to have more buses that were used for surround. And we see maybe people like Michael Brower using his mixing into several compressors thing, but he was using a desk which was built for surround, and he figured out a way to do that. And you also see Andrew Sheps, who uses this back bus idea, which is semi-similar. Again, these are both great ideas, but you know what? They weren't like normal. This isn't what you did because you just didn't have a bunch of buses on a mixing desk. And things like VCA groups and so on, that's not a bus. That's just a way of controlling the channels together. Completely different. So, the idea of having this type of plugin on buses, why not? You can do it. Perhaps that tiny little bit of distortion and a little bit of crosstalk is going to add to your width and depth, but then again, it might not. So, the value of working like that has kind of changed. So, I worked like that when I was working in big analog studios after a while because I started to also work a lot from home and I needed to be able to transport sessions to and from studio to home and back again and then to another studio and make it all work quickly without having to set up another mix again. So I started to bus to stereo pairs. I could push the faders up, go left, right, left, right, left, right, set everything to 0, and boom, I'm back in the room. There you go. My mix is coming back exactly as it did. Took it home. I had I still have a like 10K API analog summing system. Again, a bunch of stereo pairs with insert points so I could put hardware in on the inserts. And it was really a matter of convenience plus a tiny, tiny bit of the Kool-Aid that analog summing is so much better than digital, right? Well, over time, I really started to question that and felt that on especially really dense projects, I noticed less and less difference to the point that eventually I just stopped doing it. Now, I kept doing the stereo pairs thing, but for different reasons, because people's deliverables started to change and they wanted stems. And it was much, much, much easier for me to stay on top of it if I routed my audio into various pairs and the effects followed those pairs. And if somebody wanted a stem of this or that, I could just boom, 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 boom. No hassle. Didn't take me forever to go ahead to do that bunch of recalls. I could just print it. So that's the thing. Yeah, you can do it. What benefit is there? Up to you to find out. It's a matter of workflow. So, and finally, should they go pre or post EQ on the master bus? Well, it should probably go first slot, because if we're kind of trying to pretend we're on a mixing desk, it's going to hit the bus amp. And the bus amp is going to give us some kind of tone, maybe a little bit of saturation if we push into it. And that is why we're obsessed with that. Plus, hopefully you have a VU meter there, which I would like to think you might look at, because it's far more useful than you think. So there we go. There's a little bit of a history lesson and a little few thoughts about summing plugins. And I want to finish by saying that this should be very, very, very low on your list of priorities when it comes to improving your mixing. Because when we get to this kind of stuff, you're talking about almost imperceptible gains. Some people will say it's like night and day, but invariably that comes down to it being louder versus, something tangible. There are people out there who love going through plugins with a scope and measuring this and measuring that. Well, you know what? I love those guys. I'm really glad they do it, but I don't have time to do it because I'm too busy working. So up to you to try and figure out on your own. Good luck and happy mixing, everyone. Take care.